Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com.
My name is Logan Jackson, and I am a graduating student of Stetson University College of Law in just about a month. And I'm also a Journey to Esquire scholar, and here is my presentation. So I'm going to do this in a very much like, here's a little background about me, and then move on to basically like from then to now. So I was born in 1998 in St. Louis, Missouri. That's me right there, looking a little bit bald, but it's fine. And I attended Catholic schools for both elementary and high school, but I wanted to talk about my transition from grade school to high school because I feel like that really set the tone for how I see myself or saw myself as a professional before I came to law school, and especially like before I became a member of Journey to Esquire. So I went to a predominantly Black grade school, but then once I went to high school, it was predominantly white and all girl. And I feel like that's the first time I really started to deal with like racial issues and just learning more about myself as like a Black woman, a Black person, and just started to deal with a lot of implicit biases about Black women, like Black women are crude or Black women are loud. And I feel like I almost inherited those thoughts about myself, even though I would say like, I think these things are wrong, or like I, believe that these are just like, of course, implicit biases that there are stereotypes about Black women. I implicitly, like myself, thought those things about myself throughout my career. But after high school, graduated, and in 2016, I started my time at Loyola University, New Orleans. I initially majored in math because I thought math was like super fun at the time. I don't know why, but deep down inside, I was always passionate about sociology and social justice. I just didn't know what it was called until I got to college, and it was sociology. So I majored in sociology and I minored in African-American studies. I was really involved with the Black Student Union there. I ended up becoming the president. I also joined Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I was consistently volunteering with a nonprofit organization that focused on after school and weekend like educational programming with students from the inner city of New Orleans. And so during that time, I was just immersing myself in the New Orleans culture and just becoming more in tune with my passion for social justice and being involved with organizations that made social justice their primary focus. So with that, I graduated in 2019, and then I took a gap year. During my gap year, I knew that I wanted to work in like social work and public interest, but I just didn't really know what that would look like. And as I was looking for jobs, I saw that all the jobs I was looking at basically were like, also if you have a JD, like this is a JD advantage. And I didn't really know what that meant, but like also people kept telling me before this, like, you should really go to law school. I was like, I don't want to go to law school. I wouldn't be a good lawyer. I wouldn't even know how to talk in front of people, even though I had already had these skills, like from growing up and doing public speaking and acting and whatnot. Like, I just thought very terribly about my ability to even be a lawyer. And I just really just thought that it wasn't for me. And that's like a common theme throughout, I feel, my time in law school. Like all the things that I ended up doing throughout my time in law school, like before I did it, I was like, that's not for me. I couldn't do that. But I said, hey, I kind of losing out on options here and I need to figure out what I'm going to do. So I was thinking I would either get my master's in social work or my JD. And the only criteria was that if I was going to get my law degree, it would have to be like a social justice oriented program. And that's when I found Stetson. And so I literally applied to Stetson, had never been to Gulfport in my entire life. The only time I had been to Florida was to come to Disney. but I literally just applied, got in, and the first time I came to Stetson was literally when I was moving in August. So I moved to Florida in August 2020 and started my 1L year. And as we know, in 2020, that was the start of COVID, or I guess we were in the midst of COVID at that time. But it was a very difficult time for me. I was really far away from home. Like I said, I'm from St. Louis, so it was like a 14-hour drive. So it wasn't easy to see my parents. We were in the midst of COVID, so we were partially online with classes, sometimes in person, but the way that the campus is now, it definitely wasn't like that then. And quite frankly, the grades that I were making, I was at the bottom of my class. And I was genuinely unhappy with how I was doing in law school because, as many people know, like everyone in law school probably came from, having the highest grades in their high school and college classes. And I was the same way. But at this point in time, I just really thought like, whoa, this isn't for me. Like, because I'm not doing well at all, I don't need to do this, period. So I, at that time, was faced with the decision of whether or not I wanted to continue to go forward with law school or to just go back home and try to figure something else out. But I like to think of myself as a very committed person. And when I start something, I want to finish it. And I felt like God would have not put me in this position or led me here if I wasn't meant to be here. And I, at that time, was just starting to think about how maybe I was being faced with these challenges because I was growing in a way. And like, even though the growth was like terribly uncomfortable, and I was like, I really don't want to go through this anymore. I just knew that even though I couldn't see the light at that moment, I would see it at some point. So I decided to stay. And as I went through law school, I became much more comfortable with the rigor of it. My grades got better. I learned how to study better, and I started working. Like, I got a part-time job at a law firm. I had internships and fellowships, and so I was just getting more involved in law school. And I also became a Journey to Esquire intern, which, if you don't know, when you're not a 3L, as a 2L, you can be an intern and essentially help out with one of the many facets of the program. So at that time, I was assisting with the podcast, and I was introduced to many attorney mentors. You also get to participate in the modules as an intern. And I started to learn a lot more about what my own journey to Esquire needed to look like. I started to just learn more about my own self and like what worked best for me, because I think that another part of like why I was so hard on myself was because I was looking at what all of my peers were doing and felt like I wasn't doing that, and it didn't make it any better that I didn't look like any of them. I didn't have many of the resources that they have. And so I just started to just put all these thoughts in my mind of like, I'm not doing this because I'm not doing that. This is not meant for me. But once I just said, hey, this is my world. This is my show. I have to do what works best for me. I feel like everything really just started to fall into place. And I feel like I started to learn that once I joined Journey to Esquire. During my 2L year, in addition to becoming more involved on campus, I was also introduced to trial advocacy, something that, again, I told myself that I had no business participating in whatsoever. And I actually avoided it for a very long time. But I did a competition at the Sorority conference in the beginning of 2022. And from there, that's when I really got introduced to trial advocacy. And I said, perhaps I could, try out for the trial team at Stetson and see where this goes. And I had many other like Black women and Black alumni from Stetson that had been on the trial team before and that had coached me and basically really encouraged me to be on the trial team, because just like at Stetson, it's a predominantly white institution. Like, if there's only so many people of color on campus, there's only so many people of color on our advocacy board. So it didn't feel like a very welcoming space on the face of it, but I gave it a try, and I ended up joining the team. But in addition to joining the team, I officially became a Journey to Esquire scholar. And I really just saw how following my own Journey to Esquire was necessary for my success, because I feel as if at the start of my 3L year is when everything really just started to fall into place. And I saw how me staying on the path and following the course was one of the best things that I've done. And I've grown not only as a professional and as an advocate and a future lawyer, but as a person and a woman. And I'm just very grateful for the experience I've had. But in addition to just seeing how necessary following my own journey to Esquire was, I saw how the modules really helped me assess my strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, at the start of my 2 year, I started to see, like what study habits worked for me, but looking at the modules about bar preparation and having to discuss and write to my own self, what are some things or some challenges do I think I'm going to have when I'm starting to bar prep? Or how can I change my mindset and going into bar prep so that in the midst of bar prep, when things get tough, I'm not telling myself let's just drop all this. No, during the Esquire modules are telling you, no, this is necessary. Please stay on the path, stay on the course, and you have to do what works best for you because everybody's journey to Esquire is different. So in addition to being a Journey to Esquire scholar, I became the president of Stetson's BOSA chapter. I joined the SirBOSA executive board as a secretary, and through SirBOSA, I had the opportunity to meet hundreds of other Black law students, and it's such a beautiful organization. And I also got to meet many other Black attorneys, but just through that organization, I've built long-lasting relationships that I will forever be grateful for. I joined the trial team, and in joining the team, I won 2 national championships in my first year, which I think was a record breaker or something of the sorts, but I don't think before then anyone had won 2 national championships in their first year of being on the trial team. I also won a writing prize and published a paper on the Black maternal health crisis. It's in the process of being published, but it was selected for publication as the first place winner, and it's being published in the Berkeley Journal of Gender, Law, and Justice. And I also recorded a podcast of my very own. You see how history comes back around. So in helping with the podcast, my first year with Journey to Esquire, I recorded a podcast with Professor Judith Scully, who's a professor of law and who works heavily in the community regarding social justice and racial justice in Tampa Bay. And Professor Scully is one of my greatest mentors and has been very important to me throughout my time in law school. And so just being able to sit down with her and to have a conversation with her, which we do all the time, but to just be able to share that with the Journey to Esquire community was really amazing. So as far as what's next, a part of the Journey to Esquire is assisting diverse law students to enter into fields of the law that we often don't see people that look like us. So big law or clerkships. But I came to law school to really do public interest work. And at a certain point in time, I was talking with Professor Hardrick, and I was introduced to the idea of applying for a clerkship, but I just never saw myself being a judicial law clerk. Like we had just discussed, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. What business do I have applying for a clerkship? But I realized that it wasn't that I really couldn't do it, but I just had conditioned myself to thinking that because I don't check off all these boxes, I don't have any business applying for it. But I did realize that even though I could do what I thought was impossible, I realized that just really wasn't for me, and that I do belong in the courtroom and talking to people and advocating for people. So I accepted a position as an assistant state attorney at the 9th Judicial Circuit in Orlando, so Orange and Osceola counties. And so I'm very excited for that. I began that in August after the successful completion of the Florida bar exam. And so I'm looking forward to seeing where this next step in my journey takes me and where things go from there. And just a few takeaways of why I think Journey to Esquire is so important. It's truly a support system for, not even just diverse law students, even though that is the purpose of the program, but it's just this general, really great support system. I've gotten educational, financial, emotional resources and mentorships that I would have never gained through Stetson or through just like the relationships that I've made throughout law school. And it truly has provided a safe space for me to just recognize my own talents and flourish. And I think that that's very necessary, being a first generation law student where I didn't have anyone in my corner explaining to me or providing me with any guidance of like, this is okay. Things are supposed to feel this way. Like, if I didn't have people in my corner who were Journey to Esquire alumni or Professor Hardrick just basically encouraging me to just continue to go forward and allowing me to see my own worth, I wouldn't be here today. So I am very grateful for Journey to Esquire, and that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.